All right. So the plan today is basically that I'm going to be building out a resume that anybody can use. Just something that can be online, something really easy to send to people, prospective employers and stuff like that. Or even to be able to print it as a PDF, have it look real nice so that you can submit it to some of these online job sites that require that kind of thing. So today's project is going to be all in React. We're going to kind of walk through that process and how we're going to design it, and we're going to just kind of build it out. We're going to make it open source, and then anybody should theoretically be able to just fork it and use it for their own resume. Easily deployable, all those kinds of things. So let's jump right in. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to, we're basically going to kind of draw out what this thing's going to look like. So what we're going to do here is we are going to just draw out a little bit of kind of what I'm thinking. And this is going to be real rough, real rough. But kind of just your basic, really clean, really nice resume. So, you know, kind of picture on there, some kind of jimble jamble about maybe your skills or strengths or something like that. Then I'm thinking like employee history, and some points under there. And then we'd have kind of a break there. And then we'd have like education history. That was supposed to be like a institution icon. But clearly that turned into a Christmas tree. So education history, and then we'd have something maybe like, I don't know, like a hammer. That's a terrible hammer, but for side projects and things like that you want to list here as well. Obviously your name, your contact info, and maybe then some of your links and things. But yeah, this is the super rough kind of visual of what I'm talking about when I talk about kind of building your own resume. And we'll dive into that. We're gonna be using Tailwind for a lot of the styling, making it nice and clean. And yeah, so if we were just to jump over into kind of the planning of this project specifically, yeah, so the thought here is, you know, all this basic stuff we just talked about. We'd have an intro bio, we'd have a photo of you, we'd have your contact info. I was kind of fumbling around with the idea of like, this probably needs to be hidden in some way, unless you're giving some sort of like, I don't know, special link to somebody who can kind of come in and look at it like an employer or something like that. Yeah, and then your working history, your education history, side projects. And then, yeah, one of the big things I want to do with this is create like a print optimizations part of this. Tailwind has this really nice way to add styling for print. Obviously it's CSS doing it with media queries, but just a really nice syntax for as we're creating our rack components so we can maybe show some things. And my thoughts behind that are like, you know, maybe you want to expand or have a collapsible kind of section for the web version where you can kind of get into more detail about a specific, you know, employment history part. But this would let you say on the web version, uncollapse it and like show it and hide it so it's not taking up all the space. But in the print version, those would show by default, those kinds of things. Yeah, and then kind of couple bonus things that I was thinking we could do maybe if we had some time, but the first being kind of like individual cover letters. So every single time you're going to send this to a different employer, you can create like a secondary copy using all the same basic information, but list out some sort of mini cover letter. And the idea behind that for me would be not to have you write some insincere kind of couple paragraphs about what you're looking for, but more so to show off like kind of what you know a bit about the company. Like, what are you looking forward to if you were to work there? What are some interesting projects you think they have on the go? That kind of thing, to kind of catch the attention of the people on the other side to say, oh, this person actually is, you know, paying attention to who we are and what we're trying to build. Cool. So let's jump into this thing. I'm going to start the timer, kind of saying this would be a 2-hour stream, and so we're gonna try to keep that, and let's jump in. So I'm just gonna jump into my code here. Yeah, so we're gonna start like super from scratch. Basically just, I don't have any sort of project in here. I'm going to jump into my sites directory, and basically I'm going to create a new Next.js application. And I think the syntax for doing that is like npx next, I don't know what it is. So we're going to look it up because that's what good developers do, is they look stuff up. So we're just going to jump in, and that's not what I wanted. we're going to jump into here, and we are going to grab some of this action, and that's what it was, create next app. Awesome. So we're going to throw this in here, and I'm going to actually just call it something. So in this case, we're going to call it resume. And that's going to do this thing. Oh, I have to say, okay, yep. And it's going to install those packages and get us up and running here. So like I said, we are going to use Tailwind for the styling. Something I've been using for a while now. Really nice way to use utility classes to style your site, to have some sort of design system in place where even if it's a loose one, where you're able to kind of make sure our paddings and our widths and our heights and stuff are all within some level of specific increments. We're not using random pixels everywhere all the time. So yeah, so this thing's still going here. We're going to jump in and get started with Tailwind. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually search for, I always do this when I start a new project because it's always the easiest way to keep on top of if Tailwind has changed things. I'm just going to say Tailwind and Next.js. And Tailwind was kind enough to have this lovely walkthrough guide on how you can actually just hook it right up into Next.js and everything's going to work nice and beautiful. So yeah, just waiting on this to finish up over here. And then once it does, we're going to get into using Tailwind. Some of the things that I love about Tailwind are the media queries and how they've gone about doing that. So if you went to the wrong Tailwind site there. So I don't know if you're not familiar with Tailwind. Basically, oops, click right through it. There's a really easy syntax for how you would target, different size screens or different, whether a person has dark mode or light mode on, or print mode, all these kinds of things that you can have with really simple syntax. It's really beautiful, and as we get in, we'll talk more about it. We'll dive in. Cool. So this thing's done. I'm going to jump into that folder, and I am going to get to installing Tailwind. And so first thing the Tailwind gets you to do is install the dependencies, Tailwind CSS, Post CSS, and Auto Prefixer. That shouldn't take too long, and then what's going to happen is we are going to then create the initialization file, or the config file for Tailwind using this initialization method. So we're going to jump in there, hit that up, and what we're going to do here is I'm actually just going to open this project in here. So if I were to just go in here for a sec, and awesome, let's open that. Cool. And so what that Tailwind command that I just did, the Tailwind init one did, was it actually creates this Tailwind config file. So first of all, we're going to just make that much smaller. We're going to make this much smaller. We're going to jump to the right file. So this Tailwind config file allows you to extend the theme. It allows you to add plugins and do certain things. What we need to do is we need to tell it where the pages are, or the JavaScript components are, that it's going to have to pay attention to in terms of looking for styles. The way that Tailwind works is it's a just-in-time compiler. And so it's actually only compiling the CSS that we end up using, which is nice because it keeps the file size nice and small. Next.js comes with a global CSS file. We're just going to replace it with these Tailwind directives, which essentially bring in the different components of Tailwind's classes. And that's all we have to do from this perspective. I'm just going to do a little bit of cleanup here in the Next.js project. I'm just going to take out some of the things that I'm not going to end up using. I'm just going to make the home page just a div that says hello. And then we'll take out all the stuff that they've added in, maybe added in later, who knows. One thing I just noticed that I love with all my projects is using Prettier. So I'm just going to throw a Prettier config file in here. And then I have a VS Code plugin that's essentially just going to auto run prettier every time I save. And if you're not familiar with prettier, it basically will format my code. So if I'm doing this and hit save, it's going to actually format it. It's going to feel weird at first if you're not used to this kind of thing, because basically it's always changing how your code looks. I shouldn't say always, but at the beginning, it's going to feel like that. It's going to feel like every time you make a change or you write some sort of code, it's changing how it looks. But then you get into kind of like a synergy with it, and you kind of like get to know how it's going to do things, or you can change the settings to be however you want. But eventually you basically get to the point where it's not happening as much, or your brain is already accustomed to when you save it, it's just going to do its thing. This is great in my mind for teams, because nobody's really then arguing about styling. Everybody should have the exact same styling. And by styling, I mean just layout of code. Cool, so I've deleted that index file. I'm gonna keep this app file. We can talk about that later, but it imports the globals, and it's kind of like the root component for all of this. And for the API route, we'll leave that in there as well for now. Cool. So we've run all these things. Really, the only thing left to do is run our app in here. And we're just gonna jump right to that. And we should just have a blank page with the word hello, which is fun. Hello, cool. All right, so we're basically gonna dive in and we're gonna see what we can build here. So I'm gonna close all this. I've got Tailwind going. Everything's kind of ready for us to do this properly, or to start building it. So if we were to jump right back to my drawing here for a second, my amazing, beautiful drawing here, I'm kind of seeing a few things. I'm seeing that there is, at the very kind of highest level, we got two columns. So we've got this left column, which is going to have like, and maybe your contact information and stuff will go here. That could be interesting. Anyway, we've got this left-hand column, and then we've got this right-hand column. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do that kind of first separation there, of separating out kind of the two sides. So we're going to be using Flexbox for this, and it's nice and easy. We're just going to say, hey, put a flex on that thing. In this case, it's going to be flexing horizontally, so we don't have to add any sort of modifier there. That's what I'm going to start with. And then really we're talking about having a left column here and a right column here. And we're talking about, I'm just going to put in the words left and right here. So we've got these two columns, left and right. Amazing. So what we're going to do is we are going to make the width on this full, so that it goes the full width of the page. And then what we're going to do here is we're actually going to say justify in between. And so this is going to set our justification on the page, our flex justification, to space between. I'm going to wrap this in just another div. And essentially this one, I'm just going to be using it to add some, like a container around this thing. Kind of like a page element where I'm just going to say, actually, I could probably even do that inside of here. And just kind of let it take that. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll keep this out of here for just a second. We may not need it. And yeah, I'm just going to add some, what I'm going to do first is I will put some margin on this thing. And maybe I'll just keep it at 4 for now. We can adjust it as we go through. See, margin is going to ruin the width, so I'm going to make it a padding actually. And that may be actually what I was thinking in terms of having a container up here. I'm going to bring that back, and I am going to switch it back to padding. And take this off of here. Cool. Yeah, and so what I want to be able to do in this situation is I actually want this to have kind of like a max width. Like if I was to stretch this browser out or zoom out a bunch, this resume is going to be massive. And so if we're talking about pixels and things like that, and kind of what feels like the size of a piece of paper, there's probably some actual like articles and stuff on this. So like, dimensions in pixels for, I'm going to use A4 size paper. And then we can kind of just use that as, so they're saying, yeah, 595 by 842. So 842 being the long side of that, and this being the short side. I'm gonna think that's probably gonna be too small, and we may have to be. It may just be because there's a difference in the PPI in this and how that's gonna feel. But we'll try that around that anyway. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go here and I'm just gonna look for media queries on the Tailwind CSS site. And it's going to talk about kind of responsive breakpoints and things like that. I just want to see if, here it is. Okay, so these are the different sizes that the breakpoints hit. So small, minimum width 640, medium is 764.8, that kind of thing. So when I actually then jump into here, I can actually say like the max width of, and then a screen size. And sorry, I actually looked up the wrong thing. Those are the screen sizes for responsive design. When it comes to these sizes, they're actually different pixels. So if we're trying to get as close as we can to that number that we was talking about, it would be max XL. Now, if we were just to throw a border here, just to kind of see how big we're truly talking about. Yeah, see, like that's a pretty small piece of paper. So what we could do is we could expand that and kind of say what would feel right. So that was XL, 576 pixels, or 36 rems. If we were to take that out to like 1152, and I'm just gonna stretch this a bit. Maybe that's probably too wide. I'm kind of thinking like, yeah, and you probably can't see that on the stream there. Sorry about that. I'm kind of thinking maybe we go down one here. And let's just kind of see where that breaks. Yeah, I feel like that's the right. That feels right. Anyway, we can adjust this if we need to. Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about this kind of size space. And we're gonna need kind of like a left side, right side, just idea on what the colors are. So I'm just gonna color them both in differently, just so we can see how much space they're each taking up, and then kind of adjust accordingly. So yeah, they're not really doing anything. So we're gonna set grow on not that column, but this one, and then we're gonna set grow 0 on this column. Basically that's going to say don't grow, and then we're just going to set an explicit kind of width for this in terms of how big we think this sidebar should be. And I'm going to just hop in at like 384 and probably go down from there. I think that's maybe too much. And so I'm going to jump in maybe around, let's go 80. I think that should be fine. Cool. So this means that as this gets bigger and smaller, the right side's going to do the shrinking and all that kind of stuff. And if we're going to incorporate, we probably should, a mobile mode of this. Probably what's going to happen is these are going to end up stacking. So pretty easy to do. We're probably going to say the breakpoint's going to be here-ish, which I'm guessing is... I think you're going to lose the ability to really see anything here. And so maybe they'll stack right at, let's see. So the way I would do this is the way Tailwind works is it's all mobile first. And what I mean by that is really not mobile first, but smallest first. And so if I apply a class like flex on this as set display flex, but I want it to be hidden on larger screens, I would start it at flex. So basically everything 0 pixels width and above is going to be flex. But then I can set kind of different breakpoints, but it's all going upward. So if I say, large none, or I guess it's hidden in this case. Basically, I'm saying when you hit that large breakpoint and beyond, that's when I want that thing just to go away. And that's kind of the breakpoint I think we want to hit in terms of stacking. And so what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to keep flex, but I'm going to say, hey, when we hit the large size, when we hit the large size, I want you to be flex row. But in the smaller sizes, I want you to be flex column. Column. And so when we hit that, and that's not what it is. I think it's flex call. And so we hit those sizes, we do get this kind of like, it changes, right? In the mobile mode, it's this. But then when we get to mobile, we're also going to probably want to say, we don't want it to be limited to this height, or this width, sorry. And so we might say only Duke rows 0 and width 80 when you're in the large size. And so that is basically going to make these guys both full width until you get into this. So the only other thing is that and I don't know how much you can see it on the screen, but as we get the screen bigger, it's not centering itself. And I can kind of just maybe give you some more insight of that. It's not centering itself here. And so we're going to want to just see what we can do about that. And it should be really, really simple. So we're going to say, on this one, we've said it's got a max width of this. And so what we're going to say is we're just going to say margin X. So X directions, left and right. We're going to say set the margin to auto. And all it's going to do is it's going to just jump that guy right into the middle. The other thing we could have done is we could have set this property to flex. And if we were to, let's get rid of this margin auto, we can essentially just then say justify center. And it should do the exact same thing. Cool. Sweet. So we are looking good. And I'm just going to bring this back to where it was so we can see everything. Amazing. Maybe a little bit wider so we hit our breakpoint. Perfect. Cool. And so let's start building this thing. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off these background colors because they are not going to exist. And then why don't we just get started on, we take off the borders as well because we don't need the borders. I'm going to get started in here and I'm going to hit up, first of all, we're just going to put some padding on the top one here, just so that everything's not right at the top there, and probably less. Actually, just realizing that because the padding's actually going to come from the outside of the page, we don't need any padding on this, and there's no border, so it's not like we're hugging up anything. What I am going to do is I'm going to make this container flex, and I'm essentially going to justify everything to the center. Actually, I'm going to make this flex call as well, because everything's going to stack vertically, which means I'm going to use items center. It's going to keep everything centered in the middle. And so there's a website, I think somewhere called like These Are Not Real People. Because we're just going to use this for an avatar for now. This person does not exist. That's what it's called. And so we're just going to jump on that and we're going to use that as our person's face. I am not going to let them show notifications and I'm going to download this person who does not exist. So I got this download here and I'm just going to drag it into my public folder on this side over here. You'll now see that I have this avatar in here and I'm just going to quickly rename it to avatar. Probably wouldn't use the word avatar if it wasn't already just sitting in there. So we're going to jump back over here and we're going to use the image component from next image, and we're going to say source equals avatar.jpg. The alt will be my photo. And then we're going to use some widths in here, and I don't know what the sizes of this image are. Don't think they're 200 by 200. But we're just going to click on this, and I thought it would tell me in here, but it's not. I'm just going to go to Finder real quick and find out what the size of that image is. So it is not showing me. That's weird. Whatever. It looks like a square. So let's just hit save and see what that's going to do. It's going to do absolutely nothing. Oh, there she is. All right, cool. So this is a picture. I mean, it is a picture. There's probably some things we can do to that. So we are going to add some classes here, and we're going to say rounded full. That should at least give us something a little nicer. And maybe that's all we're going to do here. There's a part of me that wants to get into like the design in terms of like fonts and things like that. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that now or later when I have a lot of data and I can kind of see how different fonts look. So let's leave this in here. This is a good chance for us to create kind of like a little mini config file for this. And so maybe I'll even just in this root here, maybe I'll just create like something called data.js. And this would be what you would, excuse me, what we'd essentially use to drive all the information that's going to build this thing out. And so in this case, it would be, profile picture, maybe. And in this case, it's just going to be avatar.jpg right in that project. And then in here, we'd basically be importing. No, that's not what I want. Import that from data. And we wouldn't capitalize it because it makes it look like it's a component. And so we're just going to throw that in, see what happens. Data.profile picture, save that. And nothing should change. So anything like this that is going to show up on the page, we're going to be putting into this data object. What that's going to do is basically make this super easy for someone who might want to fork this project and use it for their own resume to be able to just do that. So we are going to jump in and do maybe even just add some more things in here. So we'll do like full name. And this guy looks like he is a Chris Whittleberg. Sure, that sounds good. We'll start with that. Trying to think of like location. Sure, London, UK. Phone. Great. And email is going to be Chris at example.com. Cool. So we've got a few things about this person. I am thinking we're gonna just trying to decide between having kind of like their details here versus having their details in here. I think we're gonna go towards having them actually live inside here. So I'm already getting to the point where I'm like, I want to add some more details into this column, but I don't want to continue building this home file to be so big. So I'm actually going to create a folder in here called components. And I'm going to create a new file. And we're going to call this, I don't want to call it left side. But maybe it is. We'll call this a sidebar. Yeah, and then we'll call the other side the details. You know, I might call them panels. Details panel and the sidebar panel. Cool. And so I'm just gonna say this is the details panel. And let's just return for now, details panel. Cool. And then I'm just basically gonna copy this. I am gonna rename these files to capitals here. Gives me the knowledge that they are components. And the sidebar panel, we're gonna do the same kind of thing. And obviously we want to export that. Cool. Jumping back to this homepage, I'm gonna grab this image and I'm going to have to grab this as well. And we'll just paste that there. And I guess let's create a div around this. Actually, we're just gonna use kind of the fragment functionality here, and then I'm gonna paste that guy in there. Oops, not that one. I'm gonna paste in this one. And then that means I'm also gonna have to import image from next/image. That's what it is. Cool. Details panel, all that stuff. I think data is now. Oh no, it's only one directory back. Cool. So over here, rather than this, we're gonna actually just say sidebar panel. Can auto import that. We don't need data anymore, and we don't need that. I should probably actually close this. Beautiful. Sidebar panel. And then in the details panels, wow, you probably saw that a mile away, and I did that. So we're gonna switch those. Oh man, really messed that up. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're just gonna switch them, and this becomes details, and this becomes sidebar panel. I can spell panel. Did I get that right? Details. Should probably call it panel. Cool. So we're gonna jump in here, and in this side, I'm just going to have the details panel. Cool. All right, so now we can just jump right into this sidebar panel and start talking about it specifically. So, kind of feeling like we're gonna be talking about data.name here. And then maybe we're getting into some of the other pieces of data, so the location, phone, email. And we're gonna style these as we go through here. Not sure why that didn't refresh this page though. Did I do something weird? There we go. Don't know what really happened there, but cool. So there we are. So we're gonna start building this resume out. So I'm actually gonna leave this sidebar alone for a second. Not super fancy, not well styled. We're gonna leave it there. And I'm gonna jump into this details panel. Cause I got big plans for the details panel. So we're talking about a few different sections. We're talking about having a education, not my class name, an education section. We're talking about having, first it'd be work experience, education, and then maybe side projects. I might actually put that above education. If we hit up the planning session there, were we talking about anything else? Or anything that's worth talking about right now? Intro bio, we still don't have that. Maybe that's in here. Their contact info, working history, education, side projects. Okay. I'm also thinking like it'd be nice to have a section for like things I'm interested in knowing better or more about. Maybe you're really trying to communicate who you are and what you're about in this thing. So, it might be super interesting, just as we're designing this to get ourselves a feel for this. If in here, I'm gonna throw a margin of 4 around this, and I'm actually going to add a border here, really subtle. And we're gonna go like very light gray. And then I'm actually gonna say min height. That's right. It's min h is the screen size, so that at least it gets that big. And I know it's super subtle. I'm actually gonna throw a shadow on here as well. And maybe round the corners like a very small amount. And maybe we're gonna increase the size of that shadow. And then maybe we'll make the background white. And we'll make the background of the body. So now we're gonna start affecting the body. So Next.js, we have to use this document.js, which app is more like the root component. Document is more for things that would go into the document, like in your head, like links to style sheets and things like that. So we're gonna create a custom document in here. The way we do that is we create a new page in the root of the pages folder, and we say underscore document.js. And I'm just gonna steal their template for it here. Beautiful. And all I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna add a class name onto this. That is going to be BJ Gray 100. And I'm actually, does that just work? Yeah, it works. I'm actually going to change it to 50 because I want to be really subtle. It's really subtle. Cool. And so if I was to make this bigger, our max width would stop working. Huh. Let's bring the max width back. What happened there? Okay, closing this out, going back to the index. Max width, 5XL. Oh, it's on the wrong thing. That's why. That's better. Okay. Just means that we have to be auto margin here. And then margin top 4. And I'm actually do a pretty big margin on the bottom. Ooh, that shadow is way too big. We're just gonna go normal. Okay, cool. It's a piece of paper on a desk. But when we go to print this thing, can y'all see? Oh, I am not even showing you the right screen. Wow, that's awkward. It's been a while. Awkward. Okay, cool. Wow. We went through a lot of stuff there that I did not show at all, which sucks. But essentially just putting on this look and feel so that it looks like a piece of paper when you're in here. But I don't want that to be the case when you're trying to print. And so you probably can't see this print job, but I want all this stuff to be hidden unless it's on print. And so when we go back into Tailwind and we talk about print, you're actually adding print styles on, or you're saying when it's print, do this. And so in order to basically take them off or to have them not apply in print mode, I have to redefine them. So in this case, it would be like print shadow and then none. And print border, print border none. And then when you actually go to print, you're then getting those things not showing up, which is great, which is what we want. Cool. So here we are, we're talking about this here. I'm actually on print, I'm actually gonna remove the top border or top margin as well. Print empty 0. Cool. Sweet. Okay. So we are going to just add some styling to these things. So name didn't show up. Is that because I actually called it full name? Yeah. Chris Whittleberg. Beautiful. I'm gonna try a font. That's what I'm gonna do. So if I was to go to Google Fonts, and I guess part of being able to change this up is really to be able to customize it yourself, is really gonna just let you choose whatever you want here. But we're gonna hit up Robotics Lab. And so I'm gonna grab the code for this and I'm gonna throw it into document inside the head tag. I just need to adjust this for React, and I think it's gonna get mad about cross origin, and that should be good. Cool. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually use Tailwind to extend the font. And so the way this works is under, it's not that one, it's the extend. Yeah, so you're able to actually extend the theme rather than overwrite it. So that's what we're gonna do. We are going to close that out. We're gonna go into our Tailwind config, and under extend, I'm gonna say font family, font family. And because I want to extend the font, there's some built-in values in here. And there's a way to actually import these from the default theme. And so I'm going to see if I can find an example. Here it is. So what I can do is I can use this to import the default theme. And for the font family, I actually want to override the serif font. And so this is the code, is basically I'm going to add something to this. And hey, James, how's it going? Thanks for following. Appreciate it. Yeah, so we're gonna extend that, and basically we're gonna use this new font that we just brought in, Robotics Lab. So we're just gonna grab this Robotics Lab. James, let me know kind of what you're interested in. I'm doing well. If you're into coding, if you're getting started, if you've been doing it for a while, let me know. Yeah, so we're gonna throw a robotics lab in here. If I jump back into here, it's gonna change absolutely nothing. And the way we have to change it is I'm actually going to go into the sidebar panel here, and I'm going to add it just directly to this one for now anyway. So the way we do that is we say font serif, and now we've got this font for Chris Whittleberg. And we're gonna wanna do different things to that, and maybe we want most of this to be in that font, right? I think all the headings are gonna be in that font, a lot of this stuff, so. Awesome, you're learning to code. What coding academy are you using? Or is it Code Academy? Is that the one? That's cool. And specifically, what are you learning to code? Are you doing web? Are you doing compiled language? Are you doing some Rust or Python or something like that? Ooh, the Mern stack. Mern stack's fun. A lot of Mongo. Anyway, that's cool. I love MongoDB and just the ability to use a database that's not structured. There's like caveats to this, and there could be bad things about it, but it's really nice to be able to just say, I want to store some data, just go put it there. But yeah, that's awesome. I know a bit of Node and Express. I use, when I'm coding, I use Laravel, which is a PHP framework, because that's just what I'm familiar with. But that's awesome. It's a great stack to be into. React is obviously what we're just jumping into a lot today, which is what I love the most, I think, to do. So the school is Dev Slopes. That sounds fun. Is that like, do you ski while you're developing? Become a paid web developer. Nice. That's awesome. Going through the web one. Anyway, awesome. That's really cool. So we're gonna jump back in here, and we're gonna be hitting up this. So yeah, we're gonna wanna have, I think, a lot of this content. And so even just in here, I'm gonna just I'm gonna take this class out of here, and I'm gonna put it on a wrapping component here. And so I was trying to hold off having to put like a root component in here, because if you check out our index.js, still in JavaScript hell. What's hellious about it? What sucks about it? I can definitely relate, but there's a lot of different ways it can be hell. Because we have our flex column stuff on this outer panel here, I can't really just like put it in. So I have a couple options. I can either bring the flex column functionality right into this, which I'm tempted to do, or I can bring this whole container in, or I can add my font on here. I don't want to do any of those things. Sorry, that's not true. I want to do the one where I said I was going to pull this out. And essentially in the sidebar panel, James, everything. I hate JavaScript. Cool. Yeah, no, it gets better. Is that something people say? I would recommend you keep going. What is it that, okay, if you can narrow it down, what is the specific thing you hate about it? Is it just like wanting to be able to do more, or is it like, yeah, I remember early stages in a lot of languages where you're just like, what the am I looking at? But soon you're gonna start React. Awesome. Yeah, JavaScript is good to learn first to get your kind of foundationals, and then to be able to jump into something like React or Vue or whatever you want to do is going to take it to the next level. So, so what we're going to do, we're going to actually now create this as the component class here. So it's going to control the flex column, and then we can just say that. It should all say the same. Whoa, sort of. That was really interesting. Why did we get so wide? Ah, because I took off all of our, yeah. Okay, we can't just pull that out of there. I missed some things. We're gonna have to pull this out here. It's actually the only thing we have to pull out. It's just the one. That's more what we were looking for. And so now anyway, for all these items, I can actually just say all of these items are now using the serif font by putting it on the wrapper container. And mostly I want to do this because a lot of these things are going to use it, and then we can override the ones that aren't. And so for instance, like when we actually get to writing out the paragraphs about our work experience, we might actually take off this serif font and just use a normal one. Learning disabilities, yeah, makes sense. Things like dyslexia or having ADD, those kinds of things can make it difficult to grasp those concepts. But you'll get it. It's worth it, and it's good, and it's like watching Inception. It's like the more times you watch it, the more things you're picking up, and it may feel like you're trying to learn the same things over and over again, but the more you kind of go through that and the more you pick those things up, you're just going to keep retaining more and retaining more and retaining more. And then everything just builds on top of each other. So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Yeah, and so I'm gonna change the size of these things. So like, I want this to be text, large, maybe bigger actually, so extra large. And we're actually going to do something here where I'm going to also make this text center for right now. I just realized that could be an issue later. Cerebral palsy. Yes, that would make it more difficult for sure. I'm sorry to hear that. How does it affect you specifically when you're coding? Are there ways you can get around it, or is it something that is really limiting in terms of a physical ability to type? Also, if you don't want to answer any of these questions, you don't have to. But yeah, I recommend keep doing it, keep going. It's gonna be awesome. How are you feeling about it and your progress and in what you're learning and what you're doing? Are you feeling good? Hey, Esgorski, thanks for the follow. Probably can't tell, but that's my wife. It's always good when your wife supports you. But 10 words per minute. Yeah, that can make it hard for sure. But I love that even your username is focusing on your ability and not your disability. And so yeah, typing may take longer, but that doesn't disqualify you from being able to really contribute in powerful ways to the ecosystem of coding. So I'm pumped that you're trying. I'm pumped that you're going after it. And yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you're feeling awesome about it. So I'm hoping what you mean is not sarcasm about your 10 words per minute, but it's actually I'm feeling awesome about coding. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and coding schools can really like push you through a ton really quickly. Aw, thanks, Steph. So we're gonna dive in here. What we're gonna do is, how are we gonna continue this? So we'll leave the sidebar alone for a second. There's probably some padding and spacing issues and things like that we can change and kind of work through a bit more. And there's obviously, I don't like the fact that this has more spacing here than it has over here and just little things. But what we can do is we can start to work on this side over here. So let's just close out this sidebar panel and we'll just jump right into the details area. And so what I'm really thinking, if we jump back over into the drawing for this, just hate JS, nice, is there's going to be an icon here that's like related to maybe the company. Maybe you can get the logo and something going on in there. That'd be pretty sweet. And then you can have the details. Where was it? What was your title? How long were you there? All that kind of stuff. And then we'll have like some sort of a bio description that you'll throw under there. yeah, we'll have to think about how we're going to do this, because I don't want the config file to get annoying, the data file, because if we're talking about putting things like your bio in here, thank you GitHub Copilot for a great intro sentence there. But what I'm thinking is you're going to want to have like a multi-line kind of thing, and that's going to go the same for some of these things with the companies. And so maybe there's ways we can get around that, and maybe we can make that better, but that's where we'll kind of start and see kind of where that goes. And maybe this will end up being more than just like a data file. Maybe we'll be able to like put an interface to it or something like that to make it easier. So we're talking about this. We're talking about, okay, so how does the data then kind of flow around what we just talked about? How we're gonna have like a logo, all these things. And so in my mind, what I'm thinking is in here, we're gonna have like a work history array. And it's gonna be an array because we want these things to be in order from what you put in here. So I kind of want to switch this out to be TypeScript. Can I just do this, or do I have to do all like, I think I have to, I should probably, this is partly kind of my ADHD, where I'm just gonna run off and be like, hey, let's do it. But the reason I want to get into TypeScript is because I want to be able to type some of these things that we're going to put into this object. Because under work history, you're going to have some sort of object in here. And it's going to be like the company, your position, it's going to be the start date, it's going to be the end date. This is amazing. And your description. What else will we get? Okay, good. Those things are going to be the same. And we're going to add in like a logo image in here. But those things are going to be the same for all of these different work histories that I put in here. And so it'd be kind of nice to be able to just type this. So it's a lot easier to kind of know what's supposed to go in each one. So we are just going to throw this in here. And I don't think it's that difficult. I think there's just, yeah, we're going to need ts config. Sorry, James, missed it. Like right now, I'm working on a command line battleship game. It's the worst ever. It's not visual, and I'm a visual learner. I totally get that. Totally get that. And I'm guessing that's all in Node. Is that what you're doing, dude? Yeah. Having direct feedback and being able to see exactly what you're doing and have it kind of refresh in real time is game changing. And so, yeah, I totally get the visual learner thing. Yeah, in Node. Yeah. And kind of like I said, like, it's worth it to keep going through it. I know you're saying you're loving it and you're not saying it's not. But yeah, it is difficult to like, yeah, to kind of be in that position where you just have to go through it and you have to kind of get it done and kind of, I don't want to say pay your dues because I hate that saying, but like kind of get that work done so that you can get the foundational stuff in place. But yeah, I mean, this is great that you're watching these kinds of things, live streams of coding, get to see kind of people doing some real world practical stuff. Yeah. So I'm gonna jump in and install all the stuff necessary for TypeScript. API-driven website for Project 8. That's awesome. That, I mean, I'm a little biased because I love that kind of stuff, but that'll be fun. Now we're gonna have to restart the development server, and then this should work. Can't resolve data. For some reason, it's not working with TypeScript. Oh, I didn't actually put anything into my... Where's my TypeScript file? Did I even put it in? I didn't. Wow. Let's try that again. I did not do this. There she is. So now we're gonna restart this again. And this time we should be good. Oh, you stream as well. Nice. What's your, I'm trying to look through at your handle here. I guess I should actually put that in here so everybody can see what I'm looking at. Nice. Cool. Yeah, I'll check you out. I'm actually just gonna throw a follow that way. Cool. All right. Can't resolve data. I'm still not sure why that's the case. Do I have to save this? Did I break it? How did I break the world? Just refresh this. There she is. All right, cool. Here we go. All right, so we are going to now, just want to make sure that mobile views, I mean, it's working. It's not fantastic, but it's working. Okay. So we are going to start using this work history. Oh, right, I just did the whole TypeScript thing, and the whole point was to create an interface called, call it work history. And so it's gonna have company and position and that. And description is also gonna be a string. And logo is gonna be a string. But logo is also gonna be not necessary. Cool, and then we're gonna create an interface for this data. And we're gonna go full name, it's a string, profile, picture, it's a string. So I have Copilot, yes. It's actually a little bit scary what Copilot can do and the things that it predicts for me. It's actually, I find it really nice to actually use and then refactor. Not that that's what I'm doing all the time, but like just the ability to do that and just to be able to like fully refactor what they put in if it even matches what I'm trying to do. But it is kind of scary. Scary in a good way. Can I do that? No. I say const data equals, and sorry, data equals that, and then export default data. Oops, data. Oops, data. Cool. And so even now it's already starting to give me some crap about these, which are not actual dates, which is great. Let's make them actual dates. See, like even that little thing, when I first had Copilot auto do the start date line for me there, it was doing it as a string. And then because I've type hinted it now above to be a date, it actually just throws in a date. Like that is just stupid good. So we're gonna do this for this one. Oops, end date. Description is not in here. Oh, I guess you have to spell it right. Oh, you've been on the wait list for a while. Yeah, I don't know how long I was on the wait list. I can't remember. I've had it for a while now, so I'm not fully sure. I remember how long it was, but So this is just something I really love about TypeScript, is just this ability to be like, oh, I already know that I spelled something wrong, or the data's wrong, or the type's wrong, and just being able to use that in a small way is huge. I'm not super hardcore. I have not gotten hardcore into it, and I don't really know, like, I don't really know, how hard and how far you can really go with TypeScript. I just like it for the little things I like it for right now, especially APIs and stuff like that, because then I can say what the object coming back is going to look like. Cool. So I'm going to throw in a second work history item here. And I'm just going to say I worked at IBM. And change those dates to be maybe 2017 to what was my start date there. So like 2018. 31. And then maybe I'll throw in another one above here to just say I worked at, I don't know. So I'm a reactive. Yes. There's only some hesitancy there because I also do some management and stuff like that for engineers. But yeah, reactive is definitely the thing I like the most. Reactive. And Laravel Dev, which is PHP. But I love combining the two and using Laravel for my APIs and my backends, and then using React for the front end. But yeah, just getting into TypeScript as well, and just trying to like see what I can do. So I won't put Netflix in here because everybody just got laid off from Netflix. So I'm gonna say maybe Incorporated. Company I heard about on a podcast. Senior developer, and we're gonna say it's going from, when did the end date of this one happen? 2021. I pitch wisdom for the kids, them solid as a prism, keeps a funky rhythm. If I want it, I go and get it. My blood thicker than water. And then you would have started. You would have started. Why is this so hard for me? Started on the 2nd. And the end date's gonna be no. I don't even have to include it. Because I'm still here. So I would leave an end date, no end date on this because I'm still here. Cool. So we're going to use this. So we're going to jump into work experience here. And again, we're probably going to bring this out into a separate component at some point, but I'm going to import data from data. And I'm going to say data dot work history dot map. And what this does is it maps over every single one of those work history items, and then we can return a separate component in here. So yeah, I guess we're gonna, because this is dynamic, it's driven by content file, we can actually use the index number of the array as the key, because that won't be changing dynamically. Development might screw it up though. I'll just use work dot company. Actually, start date's required, and I doubt you'd be starting two places in the same place, so we start date. Can't wait for React. There are 4 modules for React in my program. Oh, nice. How long does a module go on for? Okay, so as an example, I'm just going to throw in the company. Cool. I kind of want to throw in like a heading on this. Okay, so we're going to break this out into a component right now. So I'm going to call this work history section. Plus I'm so upstate, you see it's tatted on my ribs. Okay, 1 + 1 = 2. You knew that. Got that check and your dumb ass blew that. You don't have a savings cause you don't. So we're gonna export default work experience section, and then I'm gonna return. Give me a div Awesome. And I'll come in here and I'll grab this and I'll grab this. So import that data and then in here, I'll have it display the work history. So we'll go into here and we'll say work history section. Say import work history. Oh, it's work experience? No. Work history. What's it called? Work experience. Did I do that? Oh, that's my fault. And that's also why I didn't recognize it. Okay, work history section. Cool, so nothing's changed. What I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna create a new component for section heading. DevSlopes is a go at your own pace program. Oh, that's awesome. Your screen design is very cool, bro. Thank you, Fingertips. I appreciate that. I spent the last couple weeks just kind of getting it ready and getting it designed, so I really appreciate that comment. All right, what are we doing here? We would like to create, yes, I want to create that. It didn't work. Did it work? No. So we're gonna create that component in here, section heading .jsx, and I'm just gonna rename that so it has a capital H. Cool. And so what I want to do with this is kind of, if we go back to this drawing that we were talking about for the resume, I kind of want to have a block above work history, a block above side projects, a block above your education experience, because I want to kind of like really make sure it's obvious what those are. So rather than just listing companies, it'll say like, you know, work experience or work history with some sort of icon next to it. So we are going to do that. We're going to just have a section heading in here. I'll be building a shopping cart, chat app, and loan calculator in the React portions. Sick. That's awesome. So I'm going to say title. I'm going to say icon. Maybe that's all you need for right now. Cool. So we're going to throw a div in here and just really nicely or easily, I guess is probably more what I was going to say. We're going to have the icon, which is going to swap out for something, an actual icon in a sec, and then the title. And so in our work history section, we're going to have a section heading. Let's import that in. Import section heading. And what were the title? Title and icon. So we're gonna say work history, and we're gonna swap that for a real icon in a second, but I'm just gonna call it, or I'm just gonna use the % sign for a second. Okay, so jumping back to look at this, expected some things, but got some other things. Okay, that's fair. Element type is invalid. Expected a string or a class function. Okay, I probably did not export section heading. Yep. Export default section heading. And text is not defined because that's not what it is. Title. Cool. So a couple things we're gonna do here. We're going to class name, and you know what? I actually think I was kind of thinking I wasn't gonna use serif through most of it, but I'm really gonna use the serif font through almost all of this. So rather than have that in here, I'm actually gonna throw that on the root document, that most of this is gonna use the serif font. And then we'll change that out when we change that out. Okay, so a couple things. So we're gonna make the text very large, maybe even larger, maybe smaller. Okay, And then we're going to make these flex so that they're side by side. Yeah. And so with the icon, basically what we're going to do here is we're going to use a library that I love to use, which is called React Icons. Very original name, because they're icons for React. And so we're going to install this using npm as a package. And then you can essentially use all these icons that are in here and import them as components. And so you'll see that each of these categories has their own kind of like prefix, so FA, and then they have the name of the component as a logo. So we'll bring those things in. Cool. So what we're gonna do is, I've already just installed the package, and what we're gonna do is say for the work one, let's just go have a look. So I'm gonna go look through some of these. So like Font Awesome, it's got some great stuff, really good fonts. If we jump into what else, I really like remix icons as well. Those are good ones. I haven't really dove into some of these other ones. I'm sure that a lot of these are fantastic. Hero icons, yeah. But my preference that I've always used is remix icons. Can't tell you why I like them best, but I do. The other thing about this website that's a little sucky is it's really difficult to find what you want, because it's not like some other sites where you can basically like search and get kind of like, if I was to look for building, you know, I get all these, but in here I'm using like built-in search, so I have to actually search for bank if I'm looking for that one. The other thing you could do is you could go to the author's actual website. I don't know if Remix actually has, yeah, they have a website, so we'll go there and just take a quick look. James, I'm really confused about how to dynamically create HTML with JavaScript. Yes, that would be confusing. When you get into React, it's going to be a lot, the concept's going to solidify a little bit more, because like if you look over here at this thing I'm doing here, this is technically JavaScript, but I'm also writing HTML in my JavaScript. And so that can be confusing, because you essentially are writing HTML and JavaScript in the same file. What this is called is it's called JSX. So it's like JavaScript server? No, JavaScript syntax. JS is JavaScript syntax. JSX. And so it's like HTML markup, but inside of JavaScript. And so when I'm returning this object, I'm actually returning a JavaScript object, is how it gets compiled down. And this is not valid syntax for JavaScript. Like pure, sorry, I'm not really making that clear, but like pure JavaScript, this isn't valid syntax. This is a React specific syntax where we can kind of mash HTML and JavaScript together. So that's what makes it easy with React. When you're dealing with kind of just vanilla JavaScript, to actually write HTML in terms of like creating the HTML components and appending them to the body, it can get very tiresome, and like it can take a lot to write out stuff like that. But the other side of that is that you can have an HTML page, which just you write all your HTML in there, and then you use JavaScript to manipulate it. That's like, I want to say like older kind of libraries like jQuery were basically meant to be for, or meant to do, is to just have the HTML and then have JavaScript act on top of it. Whereas React is much more about having JavaScript and the HTML kind of live in the same world. Like I have to make cards with my API data for my API website. Yes. I mean, if you're getting into learning JavaScript at that point, or I guess this is pre-JavaScript because you're doing this before pre-React. You're doing this before your React modules, is that right? I'm gonna keep going here. So at least here, I can actually use this maybe to search for these icons, but then they don't have the same names as these ones. Anyway, so for work history, I'm kind of thinking like an office building or something. And so maybe, you know, these are nice. So they have the word building in them. So now I'm just gonna go back here and search for building, and they were all right here. Fantastic. I'm gonna use one of the more abstract looking ones, either this one or this one. I think this one's more clear. And so if I click on these, I get the actual name of that right there. So Just to make sure this works before we get into having to dynamically import it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to hard code it. So React icons/ri because I'm using this remix icon version. So I'm just going to, instead of icon for a second, I'm just going to use that right there. So let's jump back and take a look over here, and it should reload it. That took a while. Okay, cool. So our icon's in here. Beautiful. So the way we're going to do this is in the section heading, we're including it over here. I'm actually going to import that icon that I want to use right in work history. And if you're wondering why I do this kind of weird thing with this line here, this is just something I've done, and I don't know if it's useful. I don't know if other people do it, but like anything that I'm importing externally, I kind of leave at the top and I leave a space, and then I import my files, just to give a clear kind of separation between them. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this to say, pass in an icon component as one of the props, not just the string. Cool, James. I think that means you're taking off, so it was awesome chatting with you. So you're gonna pass in this icon to the section heading, jump into the section heading, and now icon is actually like it's a React component. It's not a string anymore. And so what we're gonna do is, just to give it that uppercase name, I'm gonna say icon equals icon, and then pull that sucker in like this. It should fully just continue to work and everything should be happy. I think it did. That's great. And so I'm actually going to get rid of the wrapping div on that because I don't need it. Yeah, it's great to meet you too. Cool. And now to make this look a little nicer, because you're seeing vertical alignments off a little bit here, I'm gonna do a few things. So I'm going to say items center, and that's gonna give me vertical alignment there, which is gonna be nice. I'm gonna throw a class name on here, which is essentially going to be, I want a margin to the right. Yeah, that might be too much. Let's do a little bit less. Cool. And you know what? I might even throw this up a little bit. Maybe we go size 3. So now I don't need this import anymore because the icon's coming in. I'm just going to go back to the work history, and I'm going to go back to the details panel, and I'm going to say, okay, cool, we're going to actually create the other ones as well. So side projects section, and we're going to create education section. And then I'm going to go to the work history one, and I'm just going to copy this and paste this in here. I'll get rid of the loop that's happening because we don't need it right now. This one's going to be called side projects section. And then we'll say side projects. And then we'll do the same in the education section. Education section, and change the title here to education. Cool. And so now we're actually going to bring those ones into the details panel. Side projects section. Oops. And then we're going to bring in the education section as well. Cool. And now you're gonna see that they all have the same icon, which is not what we want. So if we jump into the side projects one, let's first of all correct that and put the S on. We're just gonna jump back in and look in here for project. Projector, umbrella, build maybe. Buildings. Okay, tool. Sure. I don't really like the design of that one. Let's look in here for tool. Does it look like that? It does look like that. I think maybe this one is a good look. Okay, so for this guy, we are going to import that instead. And then for education section, we'll look for school. Nothing there, so we'll look for school in here. Okay, book. Yeah, these are probably good. Grab this guy. Bookmark is what it's called. Book. And we'll get I don't know which one. I kind of want to do this one. Okay. So we'll use that here. So now if we were to jump back over here, nice. Work history, side projects, education. Cool. We got about 40 minutes left. Maybe we can make this happen. Maybe we can't. But let's jump into. Let's close all this so it's a little clearer. Let's jump into the work history section. Okay. So we're going to grab some logos here. Sites, resume, public, and we'll just call this company 1. It's an SVG. I was kind of just hoping for some transparent logos is what I was looking for. Just to make this nice and easy. Like samples. Okay, let's look in images.google.com. And let's look for maybe ink logo. Sure. Let's save that image. company1.png is what we wanted. Okay, cool. So let's go to the data object again. And let's call this company. Interesting. This one's to do slash company1.png. Okay. Okay, so we're basically going to say class name equals flex. And then we're going to say, hey, if this thing has a logo, then show this div. So this div will show only for the ones that actually have a logo filled in. So if I was to say logo, you're just going to see that on me because it's the only one with one filled in. So in here, we're going to say image, next image, and we're going to say source equals work.logo. And then Next.js is going to get mad at us. And we're going to change this. We're going to say layout equals fill. I don't want to get into the game of having to like say what. That's super cool. I didn't expect it to fill the entire world. Probably have to put like a relative or something on this. showing anything now. Okay, now we probably have to do width and height. Aspect ratio, let's make a square. And let's say the width is 12. Is that a square? Probably. Let's make the width an 8. No, you know what? I feel like maybe 10. Okay, cool. So we're using squares. If it's not a square, they can change that. Even that logo is not really meant to be a square. We're gonna do a few things here. Okay, so first of all, under this section heading, we are going to, first of all, in the section heading here, we're gonna do a couple things. We're gonna say MB, we're gonna put a margin bottom on it of 3, 4, 5, so that there's some space. Now it's up to the other sections to then provide the padding that goes underneath. So you see like there's space here, but now there's no space here. So it looks like these are combined, but it's up to this section, 3 sections. I'm gonna actually create a section container component here. And basically what it's going to do is provide similar classes to all 3 sections in the container, so that I don't have to worry about updating it in multiple places. So for right now, all it's going to do is just wrap children in a div. Export default. I don't need deflate. Thank you. Cool. So work history section, we are going to import section container. Oops, section container. And then that's what's gonna wrap this. So that's gonna be the same in education section. And then that's gonna be the same in side projects. This is nice. All 3 of the sections are wrapped around the same thing. So essentially what it means is that I can go to the section container and I can say, you know what? I think every section needs to have a margin bottom of 8. And now all of those are going to get that nice separation from each other that they need. Intro section, which we haven't really talked about yet, but it is worth talking about. If I go back here to the details panel, right? We've got this intro bio thing. And then I may actually just create that as a component. Let's just copy one of these. Let's call it bio section. And then we're gonna keep these in alphabetical order and create a new component, bio section.jsx. And then we'll just pull in the education panel for a second. We're gonna call this bio section. Cool, but this one's not gonna have a title for it. And basically nothing like this. So it's gonna be like data.bio. Okay, and then details panel is angry for some reason. And that reason is this. And then I broke the world. That's what happened. So I didn't break the world. What happened was that my text here was so large that it grew. And even though this is supposed to hold its width, it did not. All right, let's see what we can do with that. So this will be handled in the main kind of index page. And so this should not be growth. Oh, it's not growing, but it's not shrinking either. Okay, so I have to actually say also don't shrink. Beautiful. Nice. While we're in here, I'm just going to quickly fix this. I really don't like So we got padding 4 on this thing. And that's fine, but I kind of want to make it this and then this. Just feel like we're going to get a little bit better visually. I think that's fine. Plus I'm so upstate, you see it's tatted on my ribs. Okay, 1 + 1 = 2. You knew that. Close this out. We got our bio section now. It's all in there. We're gonna change this. It's gonna have some, like, we're gonna, let's just do this for a sec. So this whole section, and we're gonna do this differently later, but essentially is going to start kind of at the same place that, at the same place that the name of the person starts as well. And then later on, we're gonna do some things in here. We're gonna add in like your GitHub links, maybe a cover letter, like that kind of stuff. We'll see what we have time for, but we're gonna add some stuff in there. And maybe it even makes sense for your name to be up here. We'll see where we get. Okay. So I'm just realizing if we go back in the work history section, whether or not you have a logo, you're gonna want this width to exist so they all line up properly. But maybe if none of them have a logo, you don't want that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to find out, do any of them have logos? So I'm going to create a variable called are there any logos? And we're going to go through and do that. Thanks, GitHub Copilot. So this is essentially going to go through work history, and it's going to look for some of them that have a logo. And so I'm just going to console log this. What this should give me is an array of the ones that do have logos. So if I were to bring this up, have a look at the console log, I'm going to get an object, and are there any logos? It's true. Oh, it's just asking if some of them have this. That's amazing. So I don't have to do anything with that result. I'm just saying, are there any logos? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, if there is no logos, this is fine. It'll handle itself. But we're going to say, what are we going to say? We're going to say, if there are no logos, if there's no logos, no. If there are logos, but this one doesn't have a logo, then we're just gonna throw in a div that has that 10 width. And so if I open this back up, what it should do is make sure that these guys line up, which is great. And I'm kind of actually thinking maybe what should happen is this. If there are logos, put this in here, but only if this one has a logo do we show the image. And then I don't have to redo this width down here. So it'll always show the same size. And then that means that if I was to put a margin on this, like margin right 2, just to give some spacing. Yeah, then I don't have to worry about adding that everywhere. Boom. Cool. And so now all of the stuff related to the details of this company is all going to live under here. And so I'm going to say, you know, this is the company, this was my position, and then we're going to get into some start and end date stuff. Now, I am going to put another class name on here, which is going to be margin bottom 4, because I want to do that. Okay, so now we're getting into the taller this gets, the more messed up that is. I wish that I didn't have to do what I have to do here. I guess I have to just set the height to auto. No. Maybe I can just set the height to be the same as the width. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so this should be square images, I guess, is what we're saying. Sweet. Okay, so we've got this margin bottom, which is great. We got position twice, that's why. Okay, cool. I think description. Yeah. Okay. So we're getting somewhere with this, and we're getting close to something that would actually just even just look nice. And there's going to be some stuff that we're going to kind of copy and paste between the other places. So what are we going to do here? So we will, I think what we're going to do is the name of the person is going to go here, and their details will go into their picture on the left-hand side. I think that makes a lot of sense. And so in the sidebar panel, I'm going to pull out this. And then I'm going to actually make a gap amount here, which is going to be like this. I'm going to keep those separated. Okay, so if we were to jump into the details panel, I'm going to bring the data in, and up here, I'm just gonna get rid of these because I was expecting to put classes in at the time and I didn't, so just let's get rid of them. We're going to say data.fullname. Actually, we're going to paste in that. Okay, so we're actually going to take this out of here. We're going to say height, class name. And we're going to say flex call. The height on this is going to be something like 48. And then we're going to say justify center. Let's put that name right in the middle there. Now, I think we're gonna have to make this a bit bigger. So like 52. And then we're gonna really enlarge this name here. So like, and then maybe it's worth in the data section, kind of putting like position you're looking for. And then you just say like senior front end developer. And then we'll add that to here. And that's a string. So now in this detail section, I'm actually going to add that as an H2, and that's going to be looking for. And so we're going to have to do some work here. I don't know which of these is more important. It's probably this one. Oops. It's probably your name to be a bit bigger here. And then what are we gonna do? I think we're going to just lower the opacity on this bottom one. I think we can go a lot more than that. I don't think that's doing anything. Let's do just opacity. Nice. I'm gonna bop that back up to 60. And yeah, we'll leave it like that for right now. So Chris Whittleberg, senior front-end developer, and yeah, we'll go there. We got about 18 minutes left, not much time. I'm trying to think what we can get done. Maybe handling the dates on work history would be nice. But we've gotten to a good section here. I am tempted to just say this might be a good place to hold off for today and then continue on another day. So I am going to do that. And it has been a blast. I know we've got 18 minutes left, but I'm going to end this a little early and pick it up maybe tomorrow. So hope you have a great day. Keep coding, keep getting out there, keep making things happen, keep building stuff. Talk soon.